Court stuff. So Peter has done more of this stuff than I have from the lawyers like Peter Gallo. He should come up here too. I think, and he can correct me when I make a mistake. I hear a lot of the emotion coming up about what are the cops going to do. Bottom line is, there's no way lawyers can give you an answer to that. There is no, bright line. Can they arrest me for X? The answer to that question is always yes. Will the arrest stand up? Another issue. Can they arrest you? Yes. If they want to arrest people, we know people get arrested all the time for bullshit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So can you get arrested? Yes. End of story. So if they're telling you they're going to arrest people who have tents up in the morning, then you can assume that no matter what the Knox Foundation says, that people will get arrested if tents are up in the morning. Unless perhaps they have 1,000 people here and they can't do it. But I mean, in terms of their willingness to do it and their ability to do it, the answer is yes. So in terms of the property and all that stuff, again, I don't think it really matters. Could Peter and the Lawyers Guild in 6 months have a ruling somewhere that you shouldn't have been arrested? Great, big deal. So I think the biggest thing that's going to prevent people from getting arrested is what we all know, which is numbers and community support and power and political influence and all that stuff. Not necessarily what any lawyer is going to tell you. Yes.
The first thing I want you to know is that in about 90 minutes, John Cardenas, a criminal defense attorney, is going to be down here on site.
Okay.
And I think he's especially going to want to talk to the folks who are staying overnight, since we don't know what time the police consider morning to be. All right, that's one piece of information. Here's another piece of information. Although the police can do anything that they want, it's extraordinarily unlikely under these circumstances, which are already politically charged, that they're going to arrest you without giving you an order to remove first. Okay? So it's not like they're going to sweep down. I mean, look, like Ben said, could they sweep in here right now and arrest every single one of us? Absolutely, they absolutely could. And we could fight them about it, and at some later date, a judge would say, that was wrong, that shouldn't have happened. But that's not going to make any difference to you tonight, is it? No. Now, in the morning, we have every good reason to believe, although we cannot guarantee, that you will be given an order when the police want you to leave. So we don't think it's just going to fall from the sky. That's important because it gives you, it takes out of the sense of well, what happens if I don't scramble fast enough? Or what happens if I get up at 6:15 instead of 6 o'clock? They're going to give you an order, and then you're going to have to make a decision. Now, of course, it's much better to be prepared to make a decision knowing that that order is going to come down. All right, that's 2. 3, First Amendment issues. We've done a little bit of legal research on this. Incidentally, it might be helpful for people to know when you're thinking about what you want to do, and when you're thinking about what impact what you're doing is going to have, think about this. This exact same discussion is taking place, or has taken place, within the last 24 hours in probably a dozen different cities around the country. All right, including Houston, where they have said we're going to throw people out, and Des Moines, where they've already arrested people. So you're not in this by yourselves, and I think that's something for people to think about. Now, what about the First Amendment issues? Okay, we think, based on the legal research, that we're in unusually good shape. And here's why. Because in the rest of the country, people have to deal with this Supreme Court case that says, well, you might be able to stay out in the park, but you don't necessarily have the right to put up a tent, and you definitely don't have the right to sleep in the tent, as ridiculous as that sounds. However, we happen to be in a part of the country under the jurisdiction of something called the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. It's the federal appeals court before you get to the Supreme Court. And there's a decision by one of the sister courts to the Connecticut Federal Court that says, look, not only can you do that, but you have a right to have tents in the park and sleep in them. And the reason for that's a gift to us from an organization of homeless people in New York City who fought a case against them back in 2000. about their right to sleep on the sidewalk outside Gracie Mansion where the mayor lives. So we have some legal precedent that's got a little bit of heft and a little bit of push to it. That's a little bit different from what a lot of other people are dealing with. Now, you know, Chief Roberts, he's a nice guy, and I've talked to him about legal issues before, and he's smart. But no one's going to stand here and have a debate with him about whether or not, you know, whether or not Clark versus Community for Creative Nonviolence is the decision that's going to decide whether or not he arrests you. That's not going to happen. What is likely to happen, what I can say that we can plan to happen is this, that we can move forward from whatever happens tomorrow morning, and within the next couple of days, you know, and a couple of days, that's the best I can tell you, we can file in federal district court for an injunction against the city of Hartford for arguing that they should not be allowed to interfere with your First Amendment rights by taking down tents or preventing you from sleeping in the park. Now, what will happen when we file for that injunction? We don't know, and neither does the city. What that does mean is that because of the case law and because of the circumstances, we're in a slightly better position to argue the First Amendment issues than some folks are. And we're prepared to take advantage of that. I'm sorry, I'm going to get to you, but you're really going to have to wait.
Is there a time check?
On a roll.
So, I have a very limited amount of time to do this in, so I want to try to get as much information to people as possible. So, there's nothing we can do before tomorrow morning that's going to prevent this from happening. I think that if you read the chief's statement as we want to talk, but in the meantime we're exercising some push, then the next step is a little pushback to say, well, yeah, you know what, we'll take them down, but we want you to know that if we can't put them back up again, we have avenues that we're going to pursue. Now, people will have to decide if that's what they want, but it is one of the tools that are available to people. Okay, please.